hundreds of years we've brought you the news.
Hey everybody, I'm Eugene Driscoll. Welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast. We have an election coming up November 2nd all over the state, but I'm specifically talking about the city of Derby, and I want to welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast, Mr. Joe DiMartino, the Democratic candidate for mayor. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Eugene. Hi, Eugene. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So this is actually, we did record, full disclosure, we recorded 5 minutes about, and then something happened with Zoom. So this is a bit of a do-over, but just in the interest of transparency, the last episode was just, or the last go at it was me talking like an idiot for 3 minutes. So, all right. So Joe, the first question I'm going to ask you, and I'll mix it up. What has motivated you to run for mayor in the city of Derby? Now I'm messing up.
Now, my love for this city, I love this city very much. I've done a lot in this city. I've worked, for Public Works for 33 years. I've coached in this city for 30 years. I've, coached a lot of young ladies and men in this great town. And, just my love for the city. I've been an alderman since 2009. So I want to take it to the next step and try to become mayor.
Yeah, and I should mention Mr. DiMartino is the president of the board of aldermen at the moment. You joined, or you first ran in 2009. You have like one of the interesting sort of stories in terms of elected and then reelected and then lost an election and then come back. And I have very thin skin. I don't think I could come back after. I don't even like when people comment about me on Facebook. So what keeps you coming back to the political arena here in Derby?
I love being a part. I love being a part of the system. I love being a part of the town, the city. I love this city, like I said before, and I just like being involved. I've always been involved with Derby. So always something with Derby in my life. So I like giving back to the city. I like trying to help the residents out, and that's what I like to do.
And then when you look back at your time, your various stints on the board of aldermen going back to 2009, is there any one event, cause, issue that you can point to and say, yeah, I'm proud I championed that issue or I shepherded that issue through Derby's legislative body?
Yeah, I've been involved in the Blight Committee for quite a while on the Board of Aldermen, former chairman of that committee, and it means a lot to me to try cleaning up this town and cleaning up the blight that's in this town. So I'd say that'd be one of my highlights of being on the Aldermen, working on the Blight Committee.
And then for anybody who's not familiar, Alderman DiMartino represents the 2nd Ward here in Derby. How about the top issue? If you had to pick one issue in Derby that's your priority, what is it?
I would say being a full-time mayor. That's what I plan on being if I'm elected mayor. I think you need to be a full-time mayor. I think you need to be at City Hall from 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday, so that if any resident comes in, you can listen to their concerns, or if they have a complaint. I think it's very important that the mayor's engaged there for Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5.
I've seen that you handed out campaign flyers. I have one here in front of me, and then one of the top issues right there is that you pledged to be a full-time mayor. But is that an issue that you hear about from the people? Because I'll be on, like, just talking to people in Derby, you always hear about when is Route 34 going to happen? What about economic development? But your top issue is this full-time mayor. Do you think it really resonates? Do people really care if the mayor is full-time or not?
I think they do. I think they try to reach out to the mayor and not able to do so. And I think, that's an injustice to the residents. I think, knocking on the doors, that's one of their complaints, that they can never get in touch with the mayor. So I think it is a big issue.
And, I have talked to Mayor Zekin about this issue, and he points out that he's available after hours, and he says he is a full-time mayor. Do you think this is something, you gave the hours, but is this a thing? Does the mayor punch a time clock? How do you keep track of the mayor's hours?
I don't think a mayor, I think when you're elected mayor, I think you're mayor probably 24/7. I mean, you have to be available for any kind of situation that arises. So I don't think there's a time clock necessarily that you need to punch, but you just need to be available 24/7 as far as I'm concerned.
And then in terms of economic development, I wanted to talk to you for a moment about what your plans are for economic development, which is, of course, an issue I've only been covering the city for 11 years, but it's definitely something you hear about all the time, the need for additional revenue to burden or to lower the burden residential homeowners pay in Derby. What is your plan for economic development?
In my nomination speech, I brought out that I thought we needed to hire a full economic developer for the economic development department. So that's what I would do. I would bring in somebody full time to work on just economic development and maybe some grant writing. We don't have a grant writer at the moment, so you could probably pair both of those up together and try to, get the south side of Main Street going. Try to get some of these open storefronts filled with some commercial businesses to come in. I think we need to do that if we're going to step into the next direction the city needs to go to.
And do you have any, I know this is something that would be decided, I think, by the Board of Aldermen, but do you have any idea of pay scale? Because I think the going rate from what I've just heard from other towns, full-time economic development grant writer is $100,000 in that neighborhood. What kind of salary are you going to pay and how are you going to pay for it?
Well, I mean, I don't know what kind of salary we'll pay. Obviously, we would have a hiring committee, and we would, and if I was running the show, we would have a hiring committee, and take applications and interview and all that stuff, and then maybe try to. Right now, we don't have a grant writer. We don't have. We only have we have Carmen Senzo who's doing a good job, but he's only doing 20 hours a week. So maybe rearrange the city hall staff to maybe budget for it that way.
And I guess from what I understand or from what I remember, there really hasn't been a full-time dedicated economic development director until since Steferi or Mayor Steferi was in office, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, a long time. It's been a long time. I think, if we're going to move downtown forward, I think this is something we need.
And then I want to turn it over to you because you talked about, okay, you want to be a full-time mayor. You want to hire an economic development director full-time to try to get things rolling in the city of Derby. But let's say you're elected in those first 100 days. Do you have anything that you would guarantee you would do if elected in those first 100 days?
Well, I would like to, work on business retention too. I would like to get an advisory board together with some of the businessmen and women in town and to see what their needs are and to see, what we could do to help them and what they need for help. That would be one of the first things I do as mayor.
And who would be on that business advisory council? Not specifically, but generally.
Yeah, just the businesses around town. I would go around asking them if they would be interested in sitting on the board, on the advisory committee, and go from there.
And then, you're born and raised in Derby, correct?
I was actually born in Shelton, but I grew up in Shelton until third grade.
Disqualified. No, yeah. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Sorry.
I moved to Derby when I was in third grade. But yes, for most of my life, I've been here.
What's the biggest change you've seen in all those years?
Growing up in Derby, a lot of homegrown families, a lot of people that were from Derby, they lived in Derby, they stayed in Derby. Maybe it's not so much nowadays like the homegrown Derby kids, homegrown Derby families. It's changed a little in that aspect.
Yeah, and then I wanted to ask you, I guess this is Mayor Zekin's going for his third 2-year term. I think I'm bad with numbers, but I think that's it, right?
Third, yes, third. Yeah.
Now, there is this notion, it was talked about during charter revision, although voters ultimately rejected it, of 4-year terms. That really in Derby, one of the issues with Main Street development on the south side of Main Street is that every 2 years, these, politicians go into re-elect mode or get elect mode, and then we have a new administration comes in, and it seems like there's forward progress, and then it goes back a little or it goes sideways a little bit. How would you react to someone saying, "Hey, Joe, I understand you want to be mayor, but we need some stability finally if we want to get what like Shelton is doing and what Ansoni has done on Main Street. Maybe now isn't the time to run. Zekin deserves another 2 years at least." How would you react to that?
I disagree with that. I say that I'm going to be there full time, working hard, working with the state, working with state representatives, state senators to try to get that Main Street project going. It's been delayed and delayed and delayed, and it needs to really get off the ground. And it went out to bid, but now the bid opening is stalled or for a month or so. So I just, have a good relationship with the state and working with the state to try to get that going, being engaged as the mayor. Him not being there every day, he's not doing that with the state. And I think that's a big difference.
And then in terms of being the president of the Board of Aldermen, what have you done to try to push the Route 34 project forward we do hear a lot of, every time I ask about it, there does seem to be a lot of, not excuses, but whatever these things are. But what have you done as an elected official since 2009 or so to sort of get this thing done?
Well, we try to pass anything that needed to be passed as far as that Route 34 project going. When Mayor Zekin would bring something to us or Andrew or something like that, listen, we never try to hold it up or stall it. We want this done just as much as everybody else wants it done. So that's basically what we've been doing.
And then in terms of, you just mentioned Andrew, that's Andrew Backlick, the mayor's chief of staff. There was some scuttlebutt and some questions about, you had said in the flyer, or the campaign had said in the flyer, one thing you want to do is to bring in a first-rate team to help you in Derby City Hall. And I'm wondering, like, what specific positions are you talking about that would be a part of this first-rate team in Derby?
Well, obviously the economic development department is one of them. Grant writing is one of them. As far as Andrew's concerned, Andrew's done a great job. I think he's kept the city afloat. He's there every day working hard, and I would like to keep him in my administration also. Yeah,
and that's that raises another question. Like in terms of Derby's interesting because you have like DPW, the director of DPW is sort of changes with every mayor. Would you keep like the DPW director on?
I'm not making any decisions as far as those kind of appointments goes until I'm elected. I'm worried about myself right now. Get myself in first, and then I would obviously sit down with Ed Armino, who's the boss now, and sit down with anybody else who would be interested in the job.
And then in terms of campaigning, I think the latest round of campaign finance reports might have come out today. I haven't had a chance to look at them, but I looked at the last round where Zekin, and this off the top of my head, I think he had like $12,000 raised over the last quarter or whatever that time period was. And you had about, I think, 3,000, which was a lot less than Zekin. Has fundraising been a challenge for you this go around?
Not really. We've had 3 fundraisers, and we've packed the places in the 3 fundraisers we've had. I think when you total it all up, I think there was only like a $3,000 difference between us after you totaled everything up. So I think we're right there, and we've raised enough money to do what we needed to do. So, which is good.
And then in terms of, you've been campaigning many times, but usually for the second ward where you and I both live. So I imagine this is obviously bigger. You have to knock on more doors. What's been the campaign? What have you been out there doing to get your name out there, especially in, I don't know, it seems kind of slow this year, maybe because we're all in, this pandemic is never ending. It's hard to think about a municipal election with all this other stuff going on. So what have you been doing?
Well, I've been hitting the doors. I've hit probably between 3,000 and 4,000 doors. I've been walking for months. I've been talking to the residents. It's been very good conversations. It's been very positive. So I'm very excited by the response I've been getting knocking on the doors. So it's been really good.
And what are some of the things residents are saying to you? What are you
You
hearing
know,
from them?
the obviously taxes. They bring up taxes. They bring up high taxes. They, they've brought up the mayor not being at City Hall when they've gone there to see him. So that's been a major concern. And I've been letting them know that I would be a full-time mayor, like I've been saying all along. And I guess education comes up with the regionalization with Ansonia and stuff that talks about that. So those are the topics that we've been getting.
And where do you stand? What are your thoughts on this study that's been going on for a long time now? And I don't mean that in a bad way. To possibly merge the two school districts. I mean, they're sort of getting to the end of the line. What have you been hearing?
Yeah, I mean, it's been going on for a while. You're 100% correct, and I don't know how far they've gone. They've gotten. I want what's best for Derby. I want what's best for our children. Um, the children of Derby are very important to me since I've been coaching for so long, and I've been working with kids for a very long time. Um, Education is very expensive. We all know that. Merging with Ansonia would probably cut the cost, which would be a good thing for both towns. So I would just like to see what's best for the kids and make sure everybody's equally represented from that.
And I've heard some talk that Ansonia would end up paying more, that it might not be in their best interest. Do you think, and both voters in both towns would have to approve something like this? Do you see voters in both towns approving a merger?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of the old timers, Ansonia's Ansonia and Derby's Derby. So I'm not sure how that vote would go. Really, I don't know. Like I said, some of the old timers are very strong-willed with their roots in Ansonia and in Derby.
And how about in terms of politics? I mean, one thing I've noticed about the Derby Board of Aldermen, which I've been covering since 2009, there was a decent amount of political bickering under Mayor Stafari. There was some in-house fighting within City Hall staff and the mayor's office. And then when Mayor Dugatto came in, it was Democrats fighting with the mayor a lot. But that seems to have subsided for whatever reason. What is your plan? Because at the end of the day, obviously, everybody on the board of aldermen and the tax board wants to see the same thing. We all want Derby to be a better place, and we all want to pay less taxes, and we all want like an Apple store and whatever down there in the redevelopment zone. How would you keep politics out of it?
Well, I just think we get pretty close with the people on the board of Aldermen. We all know each other. We all know each other on the tax board. We're all Derby people, been there most of our lives. As a mayor, I would work closely with all the boards, even the Board of Education. I would be more involved with the Board of Education too, and just try to work together to get things done for Derby. Because in the long run, that's all that matters: getting things done for Derby. That's what we want to do.
And you had mentioned you were a coach. I mean, you just retired as a softball coach, right, from Derby High after 30 years?
30 years, yes, sir.
Yeah. So how old are you, Joe, if I may ask?
55.
55. Okay. You look a lot better than me. You got a couple of years on me. What made you, let's go into some background here. What made you first get involved in coaching?
Well, I wrestled at Derby High School. I graduated in 1985. Right after I graduated, I got into coaching wrestling. And then after coaching wrestling for a couple of years, I started coaching my wife's sister, who wasn't my wife at the time, obviously, but in rec league, and got involved in softball that way, and then started helping out with the high school and became the high school head coach.
And what is it about coaching? What kept you all those years?
It's just a passion of mine. I love working with the kids. When we had our last home game this year for my retirement, they had people back from my first team. Those girls are in their 40s now. It was incredible the connection you have with these kids and how much they appreciate you as their coach. And that they came back to see me that last game. Some out of state they came back from out of state. It was very moving and touching for me. And that's what it's all about.
And this maybe you don't have to answer this, but how did you meet your wife? What's your wife's name, and how did you guys meet?
My wife's Lori, and we were high school sweethearts.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've been together 36 years, married 31.
And then how many children do you have?
We have 4 daughters,
Four daughters. Okay. And what's the age range there?
30, 28, 22, and 14.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. See, I have a daughter and a son, and I'm just like, that's my hands are totally full. But I mean, there's the other side of this. I always ask, especially people who are running for like a top of the ticket race. There's the impact on your family. I mean, you worked 30 years as a coach. You do work full time at Derby DPW. Was there ever a thought at this point to say, all right, I'm 55. I can retire from DPW. I can take it easy. Why? Like, did your family or your wife ever say, hey, Joe, what are you running for mayor for? Why?
They backed me through this whole thing, and it's been a little life changing right now because I'm walking 5 to 6 days a week. I'm out of the house and I'm hitting the doors, and that's a change from normal in our house. So she knows, my wife knows, my kids know what it's going to involve, knows that I'm going to be, if I am elected, I'm going to have to go to a lot of events and a lot of things that normally wouldn't happen in our lives. But they've been so supportive of me, and the girls are very excited about this whole. My younger two hit a lot of doors with me in the beginning, because in the beginning I went very early, and they walked door to door with me almost every day. It was good experience. It was good bonding between us.
Right. Yeah. And how did you first get the job at DPW?
Actually, Mayor Grandy, who, I love that guy. He was a great guy. He got me the job at Derby Public Works. I was a young kid. I grew up living next door to him as a kid, and I went to him and said, any jobs in the city? And he said there was. I said, would you be able to help me get one? And he certainly did. I owe him everything.
Yeah, I mean, I never met the man, but I always his reputation is up there. He's one of those legends in Derby that you always hear about.
Great man, and great, and involved with Pop Warner and all that stuff too.
And then, and this is sort of, I'm going all over the place here, and I apologize, but one thing, you've switched parties a lot. You were a Republican, a Democrat, a little bit since 2009. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I switched once, just once.
Okay, good. All right. So what do I know?
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
That many times.
But my thought is like, sometimes it seems to me like, the nation is so polarized by what team you're on. Do you ever see that as a concern when you're knocking on doors in Derby?
Listen, there have been some doors I've knocked on, and that's the first question they ask: are you a Republican or a Democrat? So it has happened out there, and I say Democrat, and some people say no, thank you. And you just say have a good day, and you move on to the next door.
And was one of those your older brother? Is that your older brother that?
My older brother Jim, who's an alderman in the 3rd Ward, he decided not to run this year to back me and support me. We don't let politics get between us. That's for sure.
Oh, interesting. So I know he wasn't running again, but he's helping out with the campaign.
Yeah, he's been a big supporter of mine. Yep, he gave a little speech at our fundraiser last night, which was really nice. And my big brother, my idol. I've always, looked up to him.
Yeah. And then just my last question, in terms of the other people, I mean, this is probably unfair because you can't name anybody, but are there any particular people that you're looking at on the slate of candidates that jump out? Like maybe someone who's not that particularly known, but you're proud to have them on that under ticket.
I'll tell you, Maria Collins, very, very well known for her Yukon days, but boy, she is so sharp, and I'm so excited to have her on, our team. And I think she's going to be a big plus for the city if she gets elected.
And what do you do now? I mean, election day is what? I think it's a week away, right? It's Tuesday. It's a week from tonight. So what happens in the next week?
Hit the doors. Keep hitting the doors. I'm going to hit them to the last day, and try to get my the word out there, and hopefully get some more votes.
All right, Mr. DiMartino, those are all my questions. Is there anything else you wanted to add that I haven't asked you?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on tonight, and want to thank the residents of this city for giving me some consideration for mayor.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.